Have you ever wondered if you could make what you make in a year in about 6 months or so? Well, with me, since I've been working for this past 12 years, I have always tried to figure out a way to make what I make in a year with less amount of effort. And I have failed woefully until I discovered something called traveling healthcare professional jobs. Let me tell you a story. For the first time in my life, I'm about to make what I made last year in 6 months. And to be sincere with you, I didn't know how to feel about it, in the sense that I started feeling that working for a company permanently has to be a scam, because I did not understand how I was able to make my annual salary in 26 weeks. That's two traveling contracts, while I was still doing the same amount of work that I did when I was a permanent staff with the company. It doesn't make sense at all. It started making me feel that this was a very brilliant scam concocted by someone some time ago back in the past, that a majority of us young working class adults are still going through or being indoctrinated to follow till we drop dead. And for the life of me, I just could not do it. Have you ever been in a kind of job where you wake up in the morning and then you go in, you love what you do, you love your career, but somehow you can't stand the drama, you can't stand the toxicity, you can't stand the ass kissing, just so you could, at least have a semblance of a good time at work and then go home to what really matters to you? That was me. That was me for the past 12 years, right? I would wake up in the morning, I would go to work, giving my best. And all I just wanted to do is just work and go home. But for some odd reasons, people usually start some things that drive me crazy. Take for instance, you might be like me. I'm the kind of guy, like, I come into work, I don't want to hear you tell me about somebody else's life, about, I don't want to gossip with you. I'll be very friendly, I'll greet you, and just show me what I gotta do. I'll do those things, I'll focus my attention doing those things, I will give my best in doing those things. Don't come at me telling me worker A say something to worker B, and then worker C was angry. I do not care. And I've noticed that in some corporate structures, or in some businesses, or in some companies where we, the young class adult, work, the majority of us that are like me, who want to just come in and do their work and be very kind and then go home, are targeted. Oh yes, you're going to be bullied, because in some work they have something called cliques, right? And sometimes some of these cliques are very toxic. They're so toxic that they make people who don't want to belong to that clique, they make their lives a living hell. And I've done jobs where, I come in and simply because I'm not sitting down and talking about a random topic that I do not give a damn about, it pisses them off. And before you know what is going on, I'm targeted and my life is a living hell. So I had to tolerate that for a long time. If you listen to my first video where I talked about why I started the Weekly Bagel platform, I was telling you about a story where my first job, I was a janitor, right? In my city's downtown, there is a convention center where I used to go in every day. Actually, it was 4 days a week, because it was 10-hour shifts. And we scrubbed the toilets there. There were a lot of restrooms in the convention center, and I would scrub the toilets. I would scrub the hell out of the toilet, and then my supervisor then would come come out and she would check the toilets, and then she would be like, "Hey, Chime, come over here." And then I would come, and then she would look into that toilet and be like, she would use her 2 fingers, she would touch the rims of the toilet seat. And that was the nastiest thing I've ever seen, but this happened to me. She puts her 2 finger on the toilet seat, right, like that. Speaking of nasty. And she would do this. And then she would say, "Chime, the toilet seat is still dirty. I want you to scrub it all over again." And I would be like, "Oh my God." This is what some of us young working class adults have to go through to put bread on the table. And I went through it. Yeah. I would scrub the hell out of that toilet, and this was when I was in my early 20s anyway. And being a young working class adult then, younger than I am today, I would look into that toilet seat and into the toilet bowl, and it will be as clean as snow. But somehow this lady will come in and look into that toilet, and she will see specks of dirt that I cannot see, and she will touch her 2 fingers on the toilet seat, and she will bring it up to my face. She'll be like, "You see, it is still very slimy, Mr. Chime. I want you to clean it over again." And I will clean it over and over again about 4 times before she is satisfied. And then being an immigrant then, I didn't know what labor rights are, so I had to go through that. And I would come out and everybody would be laughing. And, I would join into the laugh. I would be like, "Why are you guys laughing?" I would be like, "No, and all that." I didn't know they were laughing at me because I was getting bullied. And I was not part of their clique, right? And the lady was the supervisor. So on my young mind, I was thinking, okay, whatever she says, I gotta do, because I have to put food on the table. I have bills to pay, so obviously I have to do those things, right? Well, thank God, today such a thing would not fly, right? But then I didn't know better because I was very naive. But these are the kind of jobs that we do, and you will do it for many years and your life won't change much. It will be almost the same annual salary. If it's going to increase, it's probably going to increase by 45 cents per hour. And remember how I told you that I got tired and I decided to go and do something else. I went back to school and I got my degrees, and that's how I got into, after a long while, I got into healthcare. And I was a certified surgical tech, which I studied for 2 years, and it was the best job I ever had because of the emotional satisfaction, being there working with the best surgeons, and I know my things. When I say I know this like the back of my hands, I know most of the specialties, the surgeries, and I love scrubbing. Somehow, the experience that I experienced when I was in my early 20s followed me all the way to this professional job, whereby when you come in and you want to do your job and you want to go at the end of the day, there are some people that want you to gossip like they do. They want you to speak ill of somebody else. When they're laughing at somebody who might not be as naturally gifted intellectually, or have physical strength like the rest of us do, and when they're making fun of the person and you're not laughing, they want you to be laughing at this person. And I'm the kind of person that I feel what other people feel. I feel a lot. That's why I usually like to stay on my own, and I'm a very sensitive person, and I don't want to be around people that talk down on other people, not because of self-righteousness, but because I know what it's like when people look down on you, when people talk about you, when you're bullied, and I don't want to engage in that. And when you don't engage in that, you're somehow ostracized. You know what they call it in the corporate world? They say that you do not fit into the work culture, and that's where your problem starts. Now, to my topic today, how I made my annual salary in 6 months. When I started working as a surgical tech, I was being paid $20.62, right? My peers were making $25 and $26. There was a girl that I started with. She was making a little more than me, and I know it's because of her negotiation skills. You know, I didn't have any negotiation skills whatsoever, so obviously I was stuck with $20 and about 62 cents and all that. And I came in and they taught me how to scrub. You know, I have my license and all that. And after 1 year, I did that 1 year, 2 years. Then on the third year, the cost of living started going up, right? And $20.62 per hour could not cut it for me. So I went to my boss, right? And I said to my boss, hey, you trained me in 7 specialties. So I scrub neuro cases, I scrub orthopedic cases, I scrub general cases, I scrub GYN, I scrub robotics, that's the Da Vinci. I also scrub auto robotics like the Mako robot. I do all those things very well. I know the instrument sets that I needed. I know the hemostatic agents that I needed. I know the sutures that are going to be used. I can set up that. I could be with this doctor every step of the way to the end of the surgery. The only thing I can do is I cannot close at the end of the case because I wasn't trained to suture, right? So I went to my boss and I said, hey, I've observed that some of my peers are only able to do 3 specialties. And you have me doing all these specialties, and yet you're paying me $20.62. And I know that my peers were making more than that because I talked to some of them. Some were even making all the way to $27. There was someone in there, one of my co-workers, that was making $27 and some cents, and would only do general cases and GYN, that's it. You put that person out, you put that person in orthopedic, they started crying. I have seen this one with my 2 eyes. They either cry or they get extremely stressed out because they don't know how to scrub that case. They would throw me in orthopedic, they would throw me in neuro, they would throw me in general, they would throw me in robotics, they would throw me in peripheral vascular where we do AV fistulas, fempop, bypass, or removal of plaque on the carotid artery. And I would scrub all those cases. And yet they were paying me $20.62, and I was barely surviving. I went to my boss, right? And I told my boss, sir, I rarely call into work. I even pointed years. Like I said, okay, 1 year ago when I first started, I didn't even call in. I showed up every single day till that year was over. And then the next year, I only took two sick leave, which was 2 days. And I think that was because I caught COVID. Yeah, I showed up every single work day. And that's one thing about me, I still do it today. Even though I'm trying to find a balance between, trying to get a vacation sometime and, finding a balance between life and work, because it wouldn't make sense to work all my life and then suddenly I die and I have nothing to, I have not lived at all. But that's me. I work, right? And when I come in, I do my best. And I pointed this to my boss. You know what my boss said? He said, Mr. Chime, you had just got your raise. I said, sir, what raise? He said, the 45 cents. Excuse me. It is very funny now because I'm coming to the main thesis of this video. This man looked me in the eye and said the 45 cents per hour raise that you got earlier. I said, to be honest, I nearly cussed this guy out. I'm not gonna lie. I nearly cussed him the hell out. And this is where I nearly cussed him. This is very funny because thinking about it now, it's so I'm not gonna cuss. It's so funny because I was struggling so hard, right? I had car notes, I had insurance, I had rental bills. I have all these things that I'm paying monthly. And I have co-workers that are not scrubbing the specialties that I'm scrubbing, and they were making up to $7 per hour more than me. And they only have a year or 2 experience more than me, right? And I went to my boss to ask for a raise, and this guy is talking about 45 cents raise. I said, sir, that 45 cents raise ain't gonna do nothing That's what I said to him. I said, it's not going to do anything, sir. I said, inflation is catching up to me and I'm suffering really, really badly. And then he said, well, there is nothing he can do, but he could ask the corporate, right? So I said, okay. He said to come back in a few business days. I came back and he said, well, corporate said they have already given my raise, which is 45 cents. I know there are some of us who are working class adults that are going through this. You are working so hard and you show up every day, you put in your best, and you're barely surviving. You're barely surviving. And when you go to talk to the HR or to your manager about this to see if you could get just a few dollars up, they look at you like you're about to rob them. Like you're about to rob them. Like it's so that what you are asking is an abomination. It's an abomination that you have to ask for a little raise, a few dollars. And they ask you questions like, why do you think you deserve a raise? Why not? I am a young working class adult that is suffering. And I come in and show up every day. 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. You get me? And I don't complain. I come in, show me what to do, boss. You say, hey, go scrub this case, go do that. You do that, and then you come back and you're telling me 45 cents raise is going to do it for me when I'm struggling hard. There are young working class adults out there that are even going through worse things that I've gone. At least I was getting paid $20.62. There were others that made $15 an hour or less. And you know we show up and we do the job, right? And when we ask for a raise, it seems like we're asking about something that we do not earn, that we have to prove that we need that raise. How does that make sense? Anyway, so after he said that the corporate said they've already given her the raise of 45 cents, there's nothing else they could do. I left the office and I started thinking to myself. I said, I cannot go on like this for the next 40 years. I said, there has to be more to this. Remember when I told you that story about when I used to scrub toilets, right? And I would scrub the toilet so hard, and then my boss or my supervisor would come in and look into that toilet, touch the toilet seat and be like, hey, Chibe, the toilet is still dirty. And I told you on the first video that I made on YouTube why I started Weekly Bagel platform, that I got to a point where I started throwing up, because I was like, this is not all there is to life. And as a young working class adult, I was just struggling. And not only was I struggling because of the pay, I was also mentally exhausted, knowing fully well that I was a young working class adult and I had so much potential. And my supervisor could not even give me a break. So it was at that particular moment that I needed to change, to do better. And you, as a young working class adult, you might be there, where sometimes what you're doing, you look at it and you're like, there has to be more to life than what you're currently doing. That you were meant to do more, you were meant to contribute, you were meant to improve, you were meant to wake up every morning and go in and give your best, and people can actually feel your best and appreciate it. And if you get to that point, whatever your mind is suggesting that you do, if it sounds good to you and logical, go for it. And why am I telling you this? Well, I went to him after my boss told me that I've gotten my 45 cents raise, right? And I prayed to God, I knelt down, and I started just crying. I was bawling, I was crying. I said to God, I said, you know I have been through a lot, even as a child, and have managed to do everything and got myself to this beautiful country and managed to do my best to be somebody. And because of that, my family is better off, and my sisters were able to go to college because I suffered to pay for those things, right? And I said, Lord, and I'm here now, and I'm only making $20.62, and I'm struggling so bad Because I do not only have my responsibility on my shoulders, I have my family responsibilities on my shoulders too as the first son. And I said to God, I said, there has to be more. I said, show me that you're with me in this journey. I said, I know I probably don't deserve it. I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm the best creature you've ever created, but you made me for a reason. Show me you're working with me. And I ended that prayer, I went to bed. And then the next day, a co-worker came to me and be like, hey, Chime, I heard that, you were asking the boss for a raise. What happened? I told them what happened. And they said, you know what you could do? I will never forget this guy. His name is Lupe. And along the way, he was my mentor. He taught me so many things that made my life easier today. And I'm coming to that. And he was like, you know what you could do? He said, you could go to another company, right? And ask for a job, and whatever it is that they offer you, you get the offer letter, and then you take it back to the boss, and then the boss would try to match that, because you're already doing most of the specialties here anyway, and you're one of the few surgical techs that are doing most of the specialties. They won't want to lose you. So we only had 2 people that were doing vascular. You have one person that was doing both peripheral vascular and CVOR, and then you have me that is doing just the peripheral vascular, because the doctor liked me. And you have another person, even this Lupe, he's also doing peripheral vascular, but they always pull him for another specialty. So mostly it ends up being me doing the peripheral vascular of this particular doctor. And then sometimes, the surgical tech that does the CVOR and then the peripheral vascular, right? So I said, okay. So I started looking for another surgical tech job, and luckily, another hospital down the street from where I work, they were looking for surgical techs, right? And I could remember applying for that job, and within a few days they called me and they were throwing 7,000 bonus with $27.45, and that is $7 more than what I made at the place that I used to work. And I was like, I can't talk. That's how I felt. I'm like, make it make sense to me. The same skill set, the same years of experience, but they are offering me $7 more than what I'm currently making. So I took that offer letter and I went to my boss. I said, hey, this is my 2 weeks and this is the offer letter. I said, you have to choose, I said, with all due respect, you know me, I'm a good worker. He said, yeah, you're a good worker, Chime. I said, and I show up every day, right? He said, yeah, you show up every day, and you're one of our most valued workers here. I said, sir, if I'm one of your most valued workers, please increase my pay. He's like, well, do you already have your 45 cents? I said, okay. So I took out my quit notice and I gave it to him, and I took out the offer letter and I gave it to him, and I said, that's an offer letter from a hospital down the street that is offering me $27, and that's $7 more than what you're paying me. And you see that 2 weeks quit notice that I just gave you, sir? He said, yeah. I said, if you don't get back to me in 2 weeks, I'm gone. And I thanked him for his time, and I went out and I go do my case for the day. And then later on, he saw me on the hallway, he invited me to the office, and we talked about it, and he said, like, he's gonna get me back, he's gonna let corporate know. A few days later, they came back and they were offering $22.50. $22.50. And they were gonna throw a bonus of about, I think, $3,000 something, about $3,500. I said to myself, is it that I'm a very useless person? That I just gave you an offer for $27.60 something cents, right? And 7,000 bonus or so, and you're coming back with $22 and some cents. and $3,500 bonus. I said, sir, I don't think you guys appreciate me. I said, if all the things you said about me, showing up every day and doing the job to the best of my ability, and doctors don't complain about me and all that, and I'm doing most of the specialties that some of your techs couldn't do, and that makes me very valuable to your team. I said, why can't you just give me a few dollars more? That's what I'm asking. I said, you just came back with $2 and some cents. I said, that's not gonna do much. I said, I know people, and then I started naming people, right, that are making $27 over there with me. And he's like, you know what, did these people tell you that that's how much they were making? And I was like, I can't tell you. Because I was thinking, if I told him, maybe those people are gonna get in trouble, because I've heard this thing about where if you're a young working class adult and you're working for a company, you can't discuss your pay with your co-worker, which I think is utterly nonsense. Because if we are all young working class adults and we are working in the corporate structure, right, I feel like we need to talk about our pay, especially if we are doing the same amount of job and we have the same amount of experience. So that way, nobody's getting left behind. All this whole thing where they tell you, don't talk about your pay with your co-worker, I think that's bullshit. That's a way to make sure that some of us are getting ahead while the others are not getting ahead at all. At least that's what I think. So I told him, well, I guess I'm gonna, at the end of the 2 weeks, I'm gonna leave, because $22 and some cents is not gonna cut it for me. And he said, okay, he's gonna get back to corporate again. And he said I should give him 1 week. I said, sir, that 1 week time is running. He said, okay, be patient. So I left, right? And that was exactly the time that I was about to start nursing school, right? And I went back to the other company that offered me $27 and some cents with the 7,000 bonus, and I was trying to see if they could work with me with the nursing classes, right? And they were not too sure, and they had on-call 3 times a week, while my job had on-call twice a month. Yeah, and I wanted so badly for my job to win in this negotiation, because I already had friends there, and I enjoy working with some of the doctors, and I enjoy coming to work every single day because it was emotionally satisfying to me, and I loved what I was doing, but I loved it within that company structure. You understand? And I just wish they would win. They could give me, and all I was asking was just if my boss had came back with $4, I would have gone with them. Even though it's $24 and it's still less than 20, I would have gone with them, because I was thinking, I'm already familiar with this place, and I know everybody, I know the cases, I know the instrument set, I know where to get the supplies for surgery and all that, and I was gonna go with them. Even though right now, I tell you, hey, forget about it. If they ever lowball you when you come back with an offer, get out. Go to the other place. And some people may be, the grass is not greener on the other side. My brother, my sister, the grass is greener on the other side, and I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. The grass is greener on the other side, I swear to you. But anyway, so after 1 week, they came back with I think $23 and some cents, and they increased the bonus to $7,000. And this is what my boss told me. My boss said, well, Chime, I know you're about to start nursing school. We are going to work with you. Even if you want to work 1 day a week, we will work with you on that. And you know what? You're going to have health insurance. So I said, okay. I said, hold on, sir. Let me go talk to the other people. So I went to the other company and I said, hey, I know you guys are throwing $27 and some cents to me with $7,000 bonus. You're going to work with my nursing school. And they said, well, we have 3 on-calls. And I said, what are your on-calls? I've already registered for classes, right? So they told me, and then I was looking at my nursing classes, and I was like, that's not going to work. So I had to decline that, and I had to take the $23 and some cents plus the $7,000 bonus, right? And that's how, and they really did well working with me through nursing school. Lee, if you're seeing this video, I want to thank you so much for investing in me. during that time, working with me with my nursing classes and all that. That was what made you a very good boss to me. And I know I didn't get to work with you guys as a nurse because I was, I had to follow my dreams elsewhere, but I appreciate you for that. But anyway, my dear listener and viewer, the reason why I'm telling you this story is recently, a few months ago, for the first time in my life, I learned about something called traveling contract, right? Remember how I told you that I was working for my company for a long time and I was making $20 and some cents, right? And then when I went and get an offer and came back, it increased to $23 and some cents plus $7,000 bonus. Did you know that I accidentally discovered that as a certified surgical tech and a nurse, that there are something called traveling contracts where companies would take you to, hospitals or places, excuse me, with that lack healthcare professionals, and then they will pay you to do the same amount of job that you do in your hospital or your business or wherever you work as a permanent staff, and they will pay you 3 times what you're making. And did you know that in a year you could make twice what you make in a year? In fact, you could make twice what you make in a year. Oh, let me retreat. You will make what you make in a year in 6 months, is what I was trying to say. How did I know? Well, I found about something called traveling contract and I didn't look back. So I did my research on that. It was Lupe that actually told me about it. The same guy that I was telling you. To see how, some people are meant to guide you in your life and you just have to be open-minded. So my friend Lupe, right? So he came in one day, he was like, Chime, have you ever thought about traveling? I said, yeah, I think about traveling to see the countries and all that every single day, but hey, I don't have money, so I only have enough, to squirrel away and, for a rainy day and all that. And I can't travel as much as I want to. He said, no, Chime, it's not that. And then he went on to tell me about traveling contracts where you can go to a hospital that need healthcare professionals and then you work for them and they pay you very well. I said, oh, what? He said, yeah. So I did my research and then I found out that as a certified surgical tech, you travel. So I started traveling. And for the first time in my life, I'm about to make what I made last year in 26 weeks. In a few weeks' time. What I made last year, working 40 hours a week for 52 weeks. I'm about to make that in a few weeks. That's 6 months worth of work. And that made me wonder, the system that we have in place right now, the workplace system, the corporate structure, I feel like it's a scam. Because make it make sense to me. That some workplace would, hire somebody else temporarily and pay that person 3 to 4 times what that person is supposed to make if the person had been a permanent staff. And then treat the permanent staff like shit. And that got me thinking, right? And since Weekly Bagel is a platform that simplifies personal finance for young working class adults, I wanted to use my platform to advise young working class adults out there that if you have a job or a skill and there is opportunity for you to get contracts that will make you an independent worker, where if you go to the workplace and it's too toxic for you, you could just leave and you could find a job elsewhere. I say go for it. Because some of us young working class adults, it's not that the place that we work, we don't like it. It's just the people, the culture, the environment is sometimes so toxic that you can't even come in and do a very good job. Or you may even come in and do a very good job, but the pay shows how unappreciated your work is. And I'm someone that takes pride in my work, and I know a lot of young working class adults take pride in their work. That's why we show up every single working time, right? And then we put in our best, and then we go home to what we love, our loved ones. And I'm thinking that I'm advising you that if you have a skill that pays very well, right? And there are other places that need that skill, and that place is willing to pay you well. Vámonos. Let's go. Pack your things. We are going to that place, wherever it is. Because we don't have time as young working class adults, especially in this economic state, where what you're making right now is not even enough to take care of your necessary expenses, talk of your leisures. It is very important right now at this point in time to be selfish when it comes to making money. And for you to be selfish, you have to always look out for your best interest, right? You see how I told you that I was making $20 and some cents, and then I went to my boss, I was talking to my boss about it, and my boss said that I already got my raise for the year, which was 45 cents, and he couldn't sit well with me. And it reminded me of those times when I used to do janitorial job, and then I would scrub the toilet, and then the lady would touch the toilet seat and be like, "Hey, Chime, it's still dirty," even though the toilet seat is white as snow. And it made me feel like I was being used again. I wasn't appreciated and all that. When it gets to you, when you get to that point where you feel that way, always search for alternatives, and you will find alternatives that are willing to bless you financially, that are willing to appreciate your work, that is willing to give you the platform to grow, and I will say to go for it. And I feel like the universe also has a way of letting young working class adults know when some things will not work out for them. And you always feel it in your soul, in your gut feeling. You come in, you're already mentally checked out, right? Because you're like, you come in, you're like, you know that you're meant to do more. That's how the feeling starts, right? And when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, God made you for more. God made you for more. God wanted you to be more, to do more, to improve. God doesn't want your year to year to be the same with little differences. God wants every year to see you growing, basking in the glory of His creation. That's why trees grow. Otherwise, trees won't be growing. That's why things change. That's why everything in this universe is in a constant rhythm of changing, right? You take out a fruit, you put the fruit on the table, you come back in 2 weeks' time, the fruit is rotten. It has changed. It has become something it's meant to be when it's not connected to the tree. You take out a seed, you plant the seed on the ground, you water it. When it comes for the seed to grow, the seed will grow into a little plant. Before you know what is going on, it's a big tree. And what does the big tree do? It shelters animals. It shelters even human beings. And that's how we, as young working class adults, are meant to be. We are not meant to be in one place where we don't grow. It stifles us. It makes us dumb. That's what I believe. It makes us dumb year by year. And it makes us very dreamless. And even if we have some dreams, when we come into such environment, right, it kills those dreams, right? Because we are so busy chasing money to be able to pay rent that we don't even think about the things that we like. When I used to work as a janitor and I would come in and then scrub those toilets, I was proud to have that job. But beyond that job, I could not dream more than that until I started feeling that I could do more, because my supervisor would make me scrub the toilets over and over and over again. A monotonous job that does not have joy in it. I would scrub the toilet, I would look in there, right? And then the toilet bowl will be as white as snow. And then this lady will come and touch the toilet seat and be like, Chime, there's still some slime on the toilet seat. Of course, there's gonna be slime on the toilet seat. But she will look at it and she'll be like, you gotta scrub it over again. And I will go over in there and scrub the hell out of it. And I started asking myself, Chime, you're doing the same exact thing every single day. The pay rate does not change, right? I'm not growing. I don't see myself growing next year in this job. I don't see myself growing in 5 years' time in this. I don't even see myself growing in 20 years' time in this job. Why am I doing this job? And that's what I mean by the universe having a way of reminding you that you're meant for more, right? And it comes with a feeling of dissatisfaction. And beware, when these feelings start coming out from your soul, right, you're going to meet a lot of people. When you discuss it with people that are little-minded, they will tell you, oh, why can't you be happy with your life? At least you're not homeless. At least you're putting food on the table. At least you're paying your rent. So I'm supposed to be average because I'm being bribed with little peanuts and I'm barely surviving. So I'm supposed to be okay. I'm supposed to be okay. Coming in every day, doing those things that I'm doing, and I'm not growing year by year. Was I born to work till I dropped dead then? Where is my contribution to life? Where is my contribution to society? What is the positive impact that I've always felt that I wanted to give out to the world? What is that burning desire that every day that I wake up, I just, after I say my prayers, I say to God, please, Lord, help me so that when I'm an old man, I want all my potential used up. I want to do everything that I was born to do, so that as I'm dying, I'm okay. I know that I'm gonna probably have a few regrets, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, I've done everything that I wanted to do, right? And when you start feeling that way, when you start thinking that way, when the universe starts making it clear that, hey, girl, hey, young man, or hey, young woman, that you were meant for more, and you start feeling that dissatisfaction, which might be triggered by somebody. In my case, the first job that I had here in the States as a janitor, my supervisor, or this professional job that I had as a surgical tech, my pay, like the effort that I'm putting is not what I'm getting back. When the universe use those means to remind you, hey, okay, well, it's time for a change, you gotta listen to the universe. Remember when I told you that Lupe told me about the traveling contract, and before that I never heard about it, and I've worked almost close to 5 years, right? For the first time I'm hearing that people can actually travel and they will pay you 3 times what you're making. When I heard that, I was afraid, because I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna be going into a place that I don't know about. I'm gonna be with people I've never seen before. I'm gonna be in part of Texas that I've never been to. But then my purpose came crawling back to me. And what did my purpose whisper to my ears or my soul? It says, Mr. Chime, you were meant for more. If you're gonna go over there, you have survived all these years, you will survive this one. And why am I telling you this? As a young working class adult, you don't like where you are in your life, listen to your gut feeling. Make plans. If it doesn't sit well with you, you have a choice to change. Nothing is very permanent. So along my way, during my journey, I will meet some people that will be like, whenever I tell them my dreams, they'll be like, oh, you should be okay doing what you're doing, you know. It's fine. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. Just because you've been doing it for 15 years doesn't mean I gotta do it for 15 years. God is using me as a pencil to bring about change, no matter how little my efforts are in the human contribution of positive things. I still need to go out there and give my best and improve year by year, and should be able to see my growth year by year. And as a young working class adult, this is the way you should be thinking. So you go to a work that you don't like, start looking at what you could do that will make you more happier than you are. because for the first time in my life, I made what my annual salary is last year in 6 months. And it just opened the world of possibility on my mind. And I don't think I will ever work as a permanent staff again. So I want you to think about this. If what I've said here makes sense to you, and find the ways you could make your life better. Find the ways you could put yourself in a financial position where if you're met with a challenge or a life challenge that is bigger than you, it's not going to destroy you when it knocked you out, because some life challenges will knock the hell out of you, right? But you need to be able to bounce up. You need to know when to stand and work towards a better thing in your life. And that's all I've got to say to you today. Remember, 12 years ago, I was a janitor, scrubbing toilets, and someone will come and tell me that the toilet is dirty even though the toilet is white. And she will touch it with her hands, right, like that. And she will look at her hands and she will say, "Mr. Chime, come." And then I will come. And she'll be like, "The toilet seat is still grimy." And she will make me scrub that toilet 3 to 4 times more. And then I will come out and everybody's laughing, and they will do that to me every week. And I would throw up and I would dread going to work. And the universe made me realize that I was meant for more. And I went into the healthcare field, which is one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I did the healthcare field, and it got to a point where the universe told me, "Hey, it's another time to upgrade." And for the first time, I made what I made last year, working 40 hours per week for 52 weeks, 1 year. I just made that in 6 months. And you're telling me that the current corporate structure today is not a scam? Man, it's a bloody scam.